Hello boys and girls, we've got a really good menu today for the top five. We're going to be talking about the title race and Pep Guardiola, Arteta, Vieira, Patrick Vieira that is, Marcelino, Pochettino, about the Clasico, about discrimination in football. Before we start, just a reminder, have a look at the new podcast that's out there, the Pew Football Podcast, which you can find in your usual ways of downloading podcasts. But for the top five, this is where it starts. Is the title race over? Well, if you hear Pep Guardiola talking, you will assume that that is the case. He's been saying it, but really not believing in it for a while. I think he's realized that the weaknesses that he had found in the side, they are there for everybody to see. This is a team that still plays the same way that he wants. Not just that, not only the style, but the way they play converts City in the team that creates more chances in the Premier League. More chances, with a big difference to the second. And the style, the philosophy, the players, and the decisions from the coach allow them to be the team that concedes the least amount of chances. So the conclusion is, things are not happening in the boxes. The injury of Laporte was absolutely massive, as you all know, not just because of the way he defended, but from building from the back, he's better than Otamendi, of course. And up front, well, everybody has had a lot of chances. Sterling and, Kun Agüero, Gabriel Jesus, a lot of chances, and they have not converted them. So all in all, the problem, it seems to me, not so much as I've been reading, that the players are not believing in this anymore, or they are tired, or I just think the problem is two. One, after 2 years of winning, the most difficult thing is to continue winning, and that was said by Johan Cruyff at some point. I think it stuck in the mind of Pep Guardiola. So to continue to win, big decisions have to be taken. I believe, as it stands, and there is a lot of rumours about the future Pep Guardiola, and that he actually may leave at the end of this season. My understanding is that he's already preparing for next season, and big decisions will be taken because, of course, some of the players that are now playing regularly, perhaps they won't be there anymore. We have to see what happens with the full-back position. Both Mendy, after the two injuries, seems he won't get to the level of that he has had in the past. Let's see what happens with Otamendi. Up front, I think they certainly need a striker. Again, the left-back position is one that they haven't sorted out yet. So all in all, this is a team that needs a little bit of fresh blood to challenge for the title. It's 14 points to Liverpool. That's a big difference, but it is also down to a Liverpool that are outstanding. Nobody can see them losing, because that's what it will be, losing the league. Even though there'll be a point where they have the doubts and they have to draw the level. Yeah, historically, it happens all the time. But I do feel that Pep Guardiola, Manchester City, will come back, as he says himself, maybe next season. Now, what is happening at Arsenal? I think that the profile that Arsenal is looking for is somebody that knows the club, that has been at the club, that speaks good English, that relates well to the players. And I just keep thinking of two. I keep thinking of Patrick Vieira, who, of course, has had a long experience as number one, than the other name I'm going to say, which is Mikel Arteta. I'm preparing an article for the BBC in which I want to go into detail of why I think Arteta will be superb for the job. Because a lot of people don't know really what he's made of, what he's capable of. And I have a lot of clues that will tell you that as a leader, he's a top leader. As a leader, and understanding of the language and how things work in a changing room. He started learning all this from Pochettino at PSG. So he's got a lot in common with Pochettino. He knows what the priorities are. He came, for instance, to Arsenal at a very quiet changing room, divided changing room, if you remember, when he came from Everton, and he managed with little bits that I will describe in an article to put things together. And that requires leadership and a clear idea of what you have to do. He's strong, he's got a clear idea of what he has to do as a coach. I'm pretty sure, having had the experiences of these 4 seasons with Pep Guardiola. And it will be interesting what happens next. Say if Mikel Arteta leaves at some point, I do believe that Arsenal will like the Freddie Ljungberg experiment to work until the end of the season, to give them time to build for next season. But football decides for you. You don't decide for football. So if the Ljungberg experiment, as I call it, doesn't work, they may have to take decisions. I may go to Patrick Vieira or to Mikel Arteta, for instance. I'm sure they're not the only two candidates, but in my eyes, they're the ones that will fit the mold. They will say to them, you have to come now. And it will be a matter of either of them, whoever is approached, to say, well, okay, we'll have to go in the middle of the season. I'm sure that's in the case of Mikel Arteta, not what Pep Guardiola would like. He would like Mikel Arteta to stay until the end of the season, but Pep Guardiola knows as well that football decides for you. One thing is, though, Pep Guardiola will have to be thinking who will be his number two. And I throw a name there, one that it's similar in the approach to football and the way he thinks to Pep and to Mikel Arteta, and it's Xabi Alonso. I wonder if Pep will go to Xabi Alonso and say, right, you're doing really well at Sanse, at Real Sociedad B, but I will need you to come and help me here, and it will be a step towards what Xabi Alonso wants to do, which is to be the number one. I remember him telling me when in an interview we did in TalkSport that he would like to be the number one at Liverpool at some point. It's not the right point yet, and he wants to learn. He will learn a lot from Pep Guardiola. But meanwhile, I'm getting lots of questions about Marcelino. Marcelino is in London, and he's not just doing tourism. I think he's hearing from offers. I'm not sure Arsenal is one of them, but I do know that Arsenal would like somebody that communicates with the players very well. Marcelino hasn't got good enough English for that to happen. But something is happening in the Marcelino entourage. If I hear some more, just keep an eye on my Twitter feed, because I will put it out there as soon as I know and if I can tell you. Talking of coaches, and we mentioned him already, how about Mauricio Pochettino? Well, he's in Argentina, and he met Maradona recently. He's relaxing, he's gathering energies, and he's thinking, of course, what to do next. He will come back to London. I think that's where most of his coaching staff is still staying, and then they all have to meet and talk. I don't see them coaching this season. I think the toll, energy toll, physical toll, even from the years at Spurs, has meant that they all need to rest. They all need to look back and see what they've learned from the experience as well, and what they can do differently, if anything. But I don't see them taking a job next, which means that if Arsenal are in a hurry to get somebody, or say, anybody else, they will have to just not pick Pochettino. Next season is a different story, and I think Bayern have got him in the list. They are big admirers of him, and remember, Bayern prepare things well in advance. Bayern approached Pep Guardiola a year before he got the job and finalized everything 6 months before the job was confirmed. So all in all, I'm sure he will be in the list. I don't think he will be a candidate for Arsenal for the reasons I was telling you earlier, not because of his qualities, but I think that they are looking for somebody that can do a long-term project, somebody that understands the club. Seems to be one of the reasons why both Patrick Vieira and Mikel Arteta are in the list. And there will be other opportunities, I'm sure. The problem has been for Pochettino in the past that when teams came for him, he was at a job and it wasn't in his hands to leave that job. Now, he's got the freedom to choose, and I'm convinced that he will end up in a top bench in European football. The Clasico is approaching, and when that happens, you tend to get Barcelona and Madrid at their best, and they are at the best. Reasons for it? Well, Messi and Ter Stegen for Barcelona are playing fantastically well, but it's much more than that. Since the return of Rakitic to the side, you've got Barcelona that works at many more levels than they have done in the past. The combination of Busquets, Rakitic and De Jong is certainly working. For La Liga TV, I'm preparing a video in which you will see, if you got the opportunity to watch La Liga TV, that Rakitic does everything, takes the corners, defends the gaps when there are gaps in the midfield, keeps an eye on what Messi does to make sure that he's there in case Barcelona loses the ball, gets into the box, links up very well with 1-2 touches. He has to play. I know what Barcelona have been trying to do. They're trying to get rid of him, basically, and they're already talking in Italy with Inter to see if they will be taking Rakitic or Arturo Vidal, either of them. It may well be that in the important games Rakitic will play and he's staying until the end of the season. He wants to continue as well. But since he came back into the team, it was 1-1 against Leganés. And after that, you had big games against Borussia Dortmund, against Atletico Madrid, against Mallorca. It's all working. And also the front three are working. 25 goals have scored, the three of them. Partly because now everybody admits that, of course, Griezmann's role, the important thing that he can do, is in a similar area to Messi. I think Messi accepts that that's the case, so you see Griezmann coming in between the lines in a more central position, allowing Junior to take wide areas, or De Jong as well, or whoever plays in the midfield, and allows Griezmann to link up with both Luis Suarez and with Messi. Those 1-2s that they do with quality, he's able to do, and also score, and also running behind a lot of things that Messi is taking advantage of, and so is Luis Suarez. That combination is working. For Real Madrid, well, the rotations are working, but there is one problem. Hazard took the team to another level. Yes, everybody's playing better, Modric, Kroos, and certainly Casemiro, Valverde, who will definitely start. Maybe Isco will be the fourth midfielder. The problem is who goes with Benzema in the attack. Benzema scoring for fun, he's having the best football of his career, but without Hazard, he'll have to be Rodrigo, Bale, Vinicius. We will have to see who is the one chosen, but you'd not guaranteed goals in the way that Hazard has been either providing them or scoring them himself. Big absentee for Real Madrid. That puts Barcelona a little bit in an advantage, I believe, especially at home where they have been getting really good results and really good performances of late. Finally, we've all seen the pictures that show at least one fan of Manchester City making discriminatory remarks towards Manchester United players, towards Fred. And the response has been immediate from everybody, including the authorities. Action has to be taken and will be taken. There were homophobic chants in the game between West Ham and Chelsea, and also Everton-Chelsea. I don't hear the authorities making that instant message. Of course, the media has pointed out to it. It seems to be slowly becoming something that people not only refer to, but that has to be punished, of course. I just don't hear the authorities with the same intensity in the response than what it is when it is a racist remark. It's about discrimination, and recently I was talking, and the response to discrimination should be the same and as strong and without any ambiguity. I hear that Chelsea says, oh, well, West Ham didn't do things well, and then West Ham saying, oh, well, Chelsea, whatever. Both clubs have to also be strong in the response to these situations. I recently spoke to Troy Townsend, who, of course, has been for many years advocating for authorities to be less lenient, because the rules are there and the norms are there and the fines are there. Everything is there for these kind of cases to be penalised. But he is frustrated that authorities, this is the FA, this is the Premier League, do not act as quickly as they should. With cases of racism, both at the top level and at the bottom level, a lot of the cases that that come from grassroots racist remarks or discriminatory remarks do not get investigated enough. They just get abandoned, and that's really not a good sign. So I want everybody to shout and be as angry as everybody is when you see things happening in Bulgaria, when it happens in England and in Britain as well, because there's still a lot to improve. That's it. Remember to subscribe, of course. Have a look at the podcast. Let me have a look. Let me see what you think of the podcast and how can I improve it, because I'm already preparing a second drop. This first one has got, let me see, Pep Guardiola. I talked to Pep Guardiola, to Jordi Cruyff. I talked to Martin Odegaard, to Jurgen Klopp, to Rafa Benitez, to Van Dijk, to a lot of people. I think you'll enjoy it. Anyway, enough for now. Cheers, bye.